Hey everyone, welcome back.
Ready for another deep dive?
You bet. Today we're going to tackle InfoEdge India Limited's Q2 financials. Fiscal year 2025.
The latest and greatest.
Yeah, we've got the press release fresh out November 8th, 2024.
And of course, all the regulatory stuff.
Oh yeah, filings, board meeting outcome, standalone financials, consolidated.
The whole 9 yards.
Exactly. We're going to break it all down, see what it tells us, about where InfoEdge is at.
What they're up to, and maybe, just maybe, where they're headed.
All right, let's jump in. Big news first, InfoEdge. They dropped their Q2 results November 8th, 2024. And get this, declared an interim dividend, 12 rupees per share.
Oh, that's nice. Investors love that little bonus. It shows the company's feeling good.
Yeah, confidence for sure. Okay, but let's dig into the actual numbers. Standalone revenue up 10.6% year over year. That's huge.
Not bad at all. 656.1 crore rupees.
A pretty nice chunk of change.
Yeah, and gotta give credit where it's due. Their recruitment business is the powerhouse. 8.5% increase year over year.
Means the job market in India is still humming along. Good sign for the whole economy, right?
Absolutely.
Now this next one, billings. Always a bit confusing for me. Can you break that down?
Sure. Think of it like you're a restaurant, right? Billings are like reservations. It's not money in hand yet.
But it's coming, hopefully.
Right. It's a sign of what future revenue could be. So, InfoEdge, their standalone billings, up a whopping 14.3% year over year.
Wow, so even more growth on the way.
Potentially, yeah. Hit 650.3 crore rupees. Strong indicator.
That's excellent news. But revenue's one thing, got to make a profit too, right?
Of course, that's where operating margin comes in. How much profit are they squeezing out of every rupee of revenue?
Gotta be efficient.
Exactly. And InfoEdge is doing well there. Margins are up to 38.3%. That's better than last year.
So more revenue and making more from it.
Two birds, one stone. Their operating profit jumped too, by the way, 14.8% year on year. Reached 251.2 crore rupees.
Solid performance. Okay, but they've got other stuff going on too, right? 99 acres, Jivansathi Shiksha. What about those?
Yeah. Those are their non-recruitment ventures. Recruitment is still the star, gotta be honest.
The bread and butter.
But the others are showing some promise, still operating at a loss.
Ah, bummer.
But the losses are shrinking. That's a step in the right direction.
Okay, progress, not perfection. Right. Speaking of, let's talk about cash flow. Their standalone cash flow from operations, pretty healthy at 261.7 crore rupees.
That's the heart of the business. Can they generate cash consistently? Looks like it.
So they're not just relying on outside funding.
Exactly. Remember that dividend? That's a sign of good cash flow, rewarding the investors.
All right, so numbers are looking good. But what are the people in charge saying about all this?
Let's hear from the top brass, see what they're thinking.
All right, so Hitesh Oberoi, the MD and CEO, he said he's happy. Double-digit billings, growth in recruitment, and those losses in other areas shrinking. Sounds positive.
He's upbeat, but he's also realistic. Knows those non-recruitment areas are a work in progress.
Makes sense. And Chintan Thakur, the CFO, he talked about those improved margins and cash generation, of course. Plus, that massive cash balance, over 4,268 crore rupees as of September 30th, 2024.
That's a lot of cash. Gives them options. Invest in new stuff, maybe acquire other company, or just ride out any rough patches in the economy.
Smart. So overall, InfoEdge, they're in a good place, right? Strong quarter, recruitment's leading the charge, other areas improving, and, well, a lot of cash in the bank.
It's a positive snapshot, but remember, it's just one point in time. Gotta look ahead. What's coming the second half of FY25? Things to watch out for.
Yeah, there's always more to the story, and that's where we'll pick up in part 2 of our deep dive.
All right, so let's talk about those potential bumps in the road. One thing that kind of jumps out from these reports, gotta look at the global economy, right? It's not exactly smooth sailing out there.
Yeah, lots of chatter about slowdowns, even recessions, some of the big economies. So how does that impact a company like InfoEdge? I mean, they're based in India, but they're playing on a global field.
That's the million-dollar question. If companies worldwide start tightening their belts, hiring freezes, layoffs, that sort of thing.
Not good for InfoEdge.
Right.
Because recruitment, that's their bread and butter.
Exactly. Demand for their services could weaken, especially those key sectors, IT, tech, where InfoEdge is really strong, could see their growth take a hit.
Okay, so external factors, stuff they can't control. But what about internal challenges? Anything in the filings that makes you go, gotta watch that?
Well, we talked about those non-recruitment businesses, right? They're doing better, losses are shrinking, but they're still not making money. 99 Acres, Jeevansathi, Shiksha, they're all in tough markets. Lots of competition.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I am curious about those. What are the big hurdles for each one?
All right, let's start with 99 Acres, the real estate portal. They're up against some big players. Online real estate, it's crowded, gotta constantly innovate, attract users, attract advertisers.
Stand out from the crowd. Tough gig. What about Jeevansathi, the matrimonial site?
Yeah, so lots of competition there too. But they've got another challenge, changing social norms, got to appeal to younger folks, and their ideas about, finding a partner, they're different.
Staying relevant, that's key. And lastly, Shiksha, education platform.
Shiksha, they need to provide value. Education's more competitive than ever. Can't just list courses, got to offer tools, resources, help students make smart choices about their future.
So for all three of these, it's not just about losing less money. It's about figuring out, okay, how do we win in the long run?
Big questions, but remember, InfoEdge has that mountain of cash, could make some strategic moves, right? Help these businesses take off.
True. They've got the firepower. What kind of moves are we talking about?
Well, let's say 99 Acres could invest in virtual reality, augmented reality. Imagine you're on your couch, checking out a potential new home, walking through it virtually.
That's wild. Changes the game. Jeevansathi, what could they do?
More personalized matchmaking, maybe AI-powered, really understand what users are looking for, find those perfect matches.
Matchmaker, make me a match.
Haha, right. And Shiksha, they could go beyond listings, partner with institutions, offer online courses, maybe build their own learning platform.
Okay, so even with these challenges, internal, external, InfoEdge isn't just sitting there. They've got resources, and from what we've seen, a management team that's pretty sharp. But let's zoom out a bit. Big picture time. InfoEdge, how does their performance reflect on India as a whole?
Good point. InfoEdge, they're more than just a company. They're kind of a bellwether for the Indian economy, especially the job market.
Because their main thing, Naukri.com, it's all about jobs, connecting people, employers, right?
Exactly. So how they're doing tells us a lot about hiring trends, salaries, which industries are booming.
So if Naukri's doing well, job market's doing well. And if the job market's healthy, everyone benefits. More spending, more economic activity, good times.
That's the idea. So yeah, investors, analysts, they pay close attention to InfoEdge. They're trying to read between the lines. What's the story these numbers are telling about India's economy?
Fascinating. Okay, so we've got the financials, potential roadblocks, strategic plays, even the big economic picture. But gotta ask, what about the people? What's it like to work in InfoEdge? What's the vibe there?
These financial reports, they don't really tell us that. Employee reviews, maybe some interviews, that'd give us a better sense of the company culture. But that might be a deep dive for another day.
Maybe so. For now, I think we've got a pretty good grasp of InfoEdge's performance, the challenges, what the future might hold.
We've covered a lot, haven't we? Revenue, profits, cash flow, those potential headwinds. It's been quite a deep dive into these Q2 results.
Yeah, and our listener, they're armed with knowledge now, ready to follow InfoEdge's journey. And maybe even understand what these numbers say about India's economy as a whole. But before we wrap up, got to think about our listener. What should they be taking away from all this beyond just InfoEdge did good this quarter? We've covered a lot of ground today. Their financials, those global economic winds they're sailing into, even touched on company culture. But what about you listening right now? What should you be taking away from all this beyond just InfoEdge had a good quarter?
Ah, yes. Let's bring it back to our listener.
Yeah.
Let's say you're thinking about investing in InfoEdge, maybe buying some stock. What are the red flags, if any, that you should be watching out for based on what we've learned about these Q2 results?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's easy to get excited about the positive news, growing revenue, strong margins, that dividend. But what questions should a smart investor be asking themselves?
It's all about thinking critically. Don't just take the good news at face value. First, how vulnerable is InfoEdge to that global economic slowdown we talked about? Sure, their management is optimistic, but is that optimism realistic? I'd dig deeper into their client base. Are they heavily reliant on industries that could be hit hard by a recession?
So don't just take management's word for it. Do your own homework. What else?
Second, I'd scrutinize those non-recruitment segments. Yes, reduced losses are good, but what's the concrete plan to actually make them profitable? Look for specifics in future earnings calls, presentations. Are they investing in the right areas to make these businesses sustainable?
So it's not enough that they're trying. We need to see a viable path to success there.
Exactly. And lastly, remember that big pile of cash InfoEdge is sitting on. That's not just a safety net, it's a tool. What acquisitions are they considering? What investments are they making? Do those moves align with your investment goals and risk tolerance?
So even a seemingly strong company like InfoEdge needs a discerning eye. The numbers tell a story, but it's up to each investor to interpret that story and decide if it's the right fit for them.
Precisely. This deep dive has given you the key facts, the background, and the critical questions to ask. Now it's about applying that knowledge to your own situation.
Well said. And that brings us to the end of our InfoEdge adventure. We've explored their financial performance, looked at potential risks and opportunities, and even talked about the broader Indian economy.
It's been a fascinating journey, and I hope you found it informative and engaging.
Me too. And as always, we encourage you to keep learning. Don't stop with what we've covered here. Read those regulatory filings yourself. Check out what analysts are saying. Follow the company news. The more you know, the better decisions you can make.
And who knows, maybe your own research will uncover an angle we didn't even touch on today. That's what makes continuous learning so exciting.
Absolutely. So until next time, stay curious, keep those questions coming, and remember, the deep dive never really ends. Thanks for joining us.